Hello everybody, my name is Millie. Welcome to our tutorial. For this episode, we are going to build an HR dashboard. And for that, this is the data that we have. So we have data about the attrition in an organization. Attrition is the churn rate, so how many employees are leaving a company in a period of time. And we have some attributes that could help us to explain why an employee would choose to leave or stay in an organization. And we have attributes such as the age of the employee, whether the employee left or not, whether this employee travels a lot or not, how much is he's being paid, the department he or she works at, and how far he travels to the office, the educational level, how satisfied he is, the person's gender, how he or she is involved in the company, the job level, marital status, the income, the number of companies worked at. So we have a lot of these fields that we aim to help explain why an employee will leave an organization or not. To get started, I have also created this table for us to store all our measures in it. So let's get right to it. So let's begin by adjusting the height and width of the report that we are going to create. So we go into the format section, we go into the canvas setting, and we pick custom. So for the height of this report, let's use 1055, and for the width, let's use 1600. So then we have this, and we can just fit to the width. So let's start by calculating the number of employees that left the company or not. So we calculate the attrition. And attrition basically is the count of we are going to look at how many left in that particular period of time. So we get this from the attrition field. First, we're going to count how many left in the attrition field. Where the field was equals to yes. Let's start by putting it in this card. And then we can also count how many didn't leave the organization, which we can call as no attrition. And let's determine how many employees we have. Yes, we get that from this field as well. So now let's drag these measures into the card. And we go into the card and we look at this, but then we don't want to, if you go into the layout, we don't just want, we don't want this as like 1K. We want to show the actual numbers. So let's look at in the card itself. Then we look at the employee count. Now let's go to the other side. Yes, here. So we want this as none so that we can see the actual number. And here we can just, because this is over 1,000, we can also bring the comma to make it better. And then we do same for the others. So for attrition, we want it to show us, we want to show the actual numbers if it's more than 1,000. And for no attrition, same story. So then we can calculate the percentage of attrition, and for that we create another measure. So basically we can just divide the attrition by the employee count, and this should give us the percentage. We add a 0 just in case we run into an error, and this should give us the percentage. Let's change this to percentage. So now that we have changed it into percentage, let's make it 1 decimal point. And now let's add it as well in the cards visual. So now this is what we have. We had a number of factors that could lead to attrition, so we have to start analyzing some of them. And for that, we can get a bar chart. And then let's get the attrition percentage. What field should we look at first? We can look at the department, and then we look at the attrition percentage. Let me just close this out. We can quickly find it here. And let's adjust the height and width of this visual. So let's make the height just a slightly smaller. Make the width 1.3, and let's just position it nicely. So let's do this at, let's say, 10 and 125, so that we have a good position for that. So we are also going to adjust the position of the card itself. So let's make this 100, and the width slightly smaller. We make this a 10, and this as well. This is also a 10, so that we have this. So yeah, so we see the department with most attrition. So the department that most employee left was the sales department. Let's add a data label for this as well so that we can quickly identify the percentage. So we have 20.6 as the percentage of employee that left the sales department. We can do this analysis by a lot of the fields that we have just to try to understand What are the factors that led to people leaving the organization? Before that, let me just format this so that it becomes nicer. Let's just turn off the grid lines. And now we can quickly copy and paste this and also analyze it. One thing that we see from here, so if you look at the data once again, we see there are certain things that attributes that are related to the job itself, such as the business travel, the department the person worked in, the education level. And we have some other factors such as age, which is more like personal, the gender, and we had attributes such as whether the person is married or not. So just let's split it into like maybe two categories: factors that are related to the job itself and other factors as well. So let's just call this the work related factors. And then let's focus our analysis on factors that has to do with the job itself that's led or has a potential to lead a person to leaving. So we have departments. Another thing that could be interesting is business travel. So let's replace this with how often the person is traveling. So we see from here that people who also traveled frequently also had a higher attrition percentage as compared to those who didn't travel often. Okay. And another factor that might look interesting is your job role. So what exactly you are doing. And we take this out. So sales representatives also had like a higher rate of attrition in the period we are analyzing. Getting more about this, another thing that could be, so we have job role and we have another field as job level. So let's also get that to see what are the factors. So from here we can also realize that people with like a job level which is lower had a higher rate of attrition than people who had like a job level that was higher. And what about income? Income is very important. So if we look at, for example, your monthly income, and this has already been binned. So these are the groupings. So people who earned less had a higher attrition rate than people who earned way more than that, which is also very interesting to note. And then another thing that could be interesting if we look over here is overtime. So are people who are working overtime likely to leave or not? So let's look at that as well. And there we have it. People who worked overtime, more of them left as compared to those who didn't work overtime. We have a lot of fields. So I think this is very nice to compare. Let's just move this up a bit so that we have more space here. What if I'm fitting, let's just fit a page, yeah, so that's, oh yeah, so that's we could have it here. And let me just move this again. Let's see. To make sure that they are all aligned properly. Great. Okay, so we have other attributes such as the performance rating. Let's take a look at that as well. Okay, so this is more like an even split. There is not much distinction between if you got a performance rating of 3 or 4. And let's look at promotion. So how long it has since the last promotion. Let's take this out. So yeah, for this I don't really see like a clear distinction. People who had like the number of years since last promotion, okay, this is like 18%, and since like a longer time is like 23.1, but then it's kind of, there's no like clear pattern, so this is also interesting. And then we have a final slot here, so let's take another attribute and analyze it. Attributes that are related to the job role itself. So let's just look here. What about how satisfied you are with your job? So people who weren't satisfied with a job had more attrition rates than people who were satisfied with the job that they were doing. So this is really interesting. We can also look at it based on other factors that are not related to the job itself. But then let's just make this nicer first. Then we can go there and then do that as well. So to get started, let's start with this card visual and just adjust it. This is kind of spilling over. So let's see, adjust it to make it better. If you go into this card and we go here, let's first go into the call out values. And let's change the size. So let's change this to like, let's see, 27. Okay, oh, this is just on this. We can select all. And that is the benefit of this new card visual. You can apply all your formatting to all the cards at the same time. And then if you want, you can also go into one specific one and apply the changes. And let's center this. Let's change the colors around. I think that would make it nicer. So let's pick a color that we would want. Okay, let's pick a color like this. And then apply it here. And let's go into the label as well and see whether we can make changes. So if you go into the labels portion, let's just change everything to Arial. Okay, and I think maybe we can make it a bit bigger. Yeah, this is way better. And let's do same for this. Let's change it. Okay, nice. Let me just add a space between the percentage sign here. And now let's go back and make changes to the other aspect. I think we can bolden this out also to make it, yes, and I think this looks nice already. Let's just save that. And let's just lock this so that it doesn't move around a lot. So for this as well, let's just go in to the columns and change the colors. Let's pick this color for that, and let's turn off the access title because we already have a title on the top. And let's do the same for the y-axis as well. Okay, this is already looking nice. And then let's try to quickly apply this same formatting to the other bar charts as well. Okay, so the dashboard is already taking shape. This looks a bit smaller, the title, so let's change the title, let's change the size of it. And I should have applied this before I did the formatting, or let's change it to Arial. Yeah, this looks better, I think. So quickly just changing this around. Yeah, this is already Arial. Let's see this again. Yeah. So by changing the font family, it's already looking way better. Okay, nice. So what we can do is everything looks like a bar chart. We can make it better. So let's go here, and maybe for the job role, let's change the visualization type into a tree map. So we see the same information. For the job role, sales representatives had the highest attrition rate, followed by lab technicians and then the human resource. Let's look, because this also, let's maybe move it around, change the visual. Let's change it into a donut chart, since we had, yeah, the split is almost even, like 49.5, 50.5. Let's go in and change this around. Let's change the colors to better reflect what we have. So for example, for this, let's choose this color, and let's choose another color type for the other one. See the color that would fit better. So let's pick this color. Yeah, that makes it so much better. And yeah, so there we have it. I think this page is already looking nice. Basically, what we see is people in sales department left earlier, people who traveled more left, had a higher rate of leaving, and then people who were not satisfied with their job also left more. Same applies to overtime. Let's do similar analysis, but based on other factors that are not related to job. Let's just duplicate this to make our work a bit easier, and let's call these external factors. See. Okay, so for external factors, we also had a number of info or attributes that weren't necessarily related to the job. So things like the gender, so men and women who had the highest attrition rate. So men had like 17%, so that was higher than women. And let's look at it based on age. So we also had age here. So younger people also had a higher attrition rate as compared to older people. So this is also an interesting find. And let's look at other factors that is not job related. So let's pick marital status, for example. Okay, now let's just change the visual around. Let's change to another visual. And continuing on, let's look at, for example, the distance from home. I think that is also interested. If you have to commute like a longer distance, does that lead to higher attrition? Yeah, there is not like a distinct pattern I see. So let's assume this is in like kilometers. I see like more spikes here, but in general, I don't see it as that clear. So let's just continue on and see some other external factors. Let's see what else is interesting. Okay, work-life balance. Let's add that to it as well. And so people who didn't have good work-life balance also left as compared to those who rated the work-life balance as higher, which is also very interesting. And then let's look at other factors that we didn't consider previously. So, for example, the number of companies that you have worked in. And also, let's look at, I think this is related to the job itself, but then it is okay that we put it here. So maybe the relationship that you have amongst your colleagues. Let's see which one had the highest. So the highest one is the blue, so the one that had the lowest rating. So people who had like less good relationship with their colleagues at work also had a higher attrition rate as compared to the others, which is also very interesting. Moving on, let's look at um other factors. So let's just go through and see whether we can identify some other factors that might be interesting. So if we take out environmental satisfaction, yeah, if I can consider that as the environment at work, but then that means people who rated that as lower as one had like a higher attrition rate compared to those who gave like the satisfaction in the environment as 4. They stayed more often. And we have one slot here. So let's look again at um let's see. Let's see what other factors are not related to the job directly. Maybe let's look at stock options. That will definitely be related to their job, but then it looks like people who didn't have like a lot of stock options left more. But then another interesting spike is people also who had like more stock options also left. So this is very interesting. Let's just change the color of this. Let me just move this a bit. Yeah. Let me just change the colors of these. And we can do that in the slicer section. So let's choose some colors. This is number 2. And for number 3, let's pick this blue. And for number 4, yeah, I even think this color is also nice. So let's just leave it as this. And one more thing is we can go into the details and we just look at the percentage of the total, so that makes it a bit cleaner. So we have all these factors that is helping us to explain why attrition will go up or not. Let's look at the main drivers. So let's call this the main driver. So now we've explored some potential factors that led to people leaving or not. But then if you want to give our management like recommendations or what are the factors, how do we do that? So we have this visual in Power BI, which is called the key influences visual. Let me just expand this to make it way bigger, because the main import of this is to give our management what are the main drivers of attrition for them to act on it. So what do we want to analyze? We want to analyze attrition. I think it's easier for me to just pick it from here. So if I put attrition, let me just, this is this attrition rather. So the yes or no. So we want to look at what factors influence the attrition to be yes. So why are people leaving? And then we can start putting in some variables. So some of the fields that we already looked at. So we looked at let's look at years at company. Let's make it average. Then let's look at your years in your current role. So basically we can just put all the information here, all the fields, and this key insight is just going to help us to understand what are the main factors here. So when was since last promotion? Let's look at other things as well. So starting from the bottom, we can look at your work-life balance also. And let's look at the stock options, because that also looked interesting in our initial analysis. And we saw things like environmental satisfaction. Let's bring that in as well. So basically, we are bringing all the factors that we kind of plotted before that were interesting, and then this visual helps us to, like, using AI to help us to determine what are the main drivers that are important and that leads to attrition being higher or not. So we saw things like the job role and the job level. So we put that in as well. We look at the age. So that's what is also interesting. Let's look at the age. And we also saw that people who traveled more often also left as compared to those who didn't travel often. And another thing that we saw that was interesting was the department in which you worked in. And let's look at the distance from home as well. So we can basically put in all these factors and we will just get this information. We also can look at your education. Oh, that was interesting. We didn't put that in the external factors. So we can look at what is your level of education, and then we can look at the performance rating because that also looked interesting. And we also saw previously that people that worked overtime left had a higher attrition rate as compared to those who didn't work overtime. And how long have you been working? Let's change this to average. And the number of years with your current manager, that we didn't plug, but I think that is also interesting because your manager can have an influence. Okay. And there was also an attribute about training. How often that you had training to upgrade your skills. So here we plotted, let's just look at the external factors. This was more related to job, so let's just change this one and look at education because that I think, let's compare these two education fields and see. I thought it was interesting. So this is more like, okay, 1, 2, 3, just numbers, and this is the actual field. So let's put in the field here. Yeah, people who were in HR like left more than others. So this is interesting. Let's come back to the main drivers. And let's see whether there is something else that is interesting that we have not added. So if we click on this, we have, okay, let's add like marital status. And did I add the income? Let's put income, which I think is also very important. So people with and let's see, relationship satisfaction. Let's just put it here. Yeah, I think we have now added a lot. So let's just look at these factors. For example, something like an hourly rate gets you to your monthly income. So we can just keep one of those in and that should be fine. Okay. Let's just add the job involvement also. And now let's analyze to see. So from this, what we realize is that the factor that contributes mostly to people leaving is when their average total working years is 2 or less. So we saw that if there was 2 or less, then they had like a higher attrition percentage than the average. So we put in, yeah, this is the total number of years. So this is 2 or less, and then all of these has been grouped together. So we also see the next important factor is when overtime is yes. So people that worked a lot of overtime hours also had a higher attrition rate. So these people have like, what it basically we are saying is attrition is more likely to be yes. So attrition is more likely to happen when your overtime is yes more than like when it's low, and this is the amount it contributes. So this is the weight. So we kind of rank everything in weight. This is the most important factor based on the AI analysis, followed by overtime, and then people who are as work as sales representative also have like a higher attrition percentage than others. So basically, this is the average, and we see how this fare against the others. And younger people also left more often. And then there could be like explanation for that. Maybe they are going to go back to school, so they were working part time. And people who are working at the company for an average of 1 year or less. So if you come and maybe there are certain other factors that are built into this, you don't have good relationship with your colleagues or manager, or you don't like the environment, then this could lead you to leaving like even before the 1 year. Another thing that is interesting is also the monthly income. So people who earned less had like are more likely to leave this company than people who earn more than a certain threshold. And also with job levels, when the job level is lower, so people in low ranking jobs has like a higher probability of leaving than other job levels. So if you are taking, for example, top 5 factors for HR to work on improving, then this will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we have a lot, we can also look at, for example, top 10, for example, then it means all of these factors come in. So another thing that was interesting here was the how long you have been working with your current manager. So I think this also explains the average of the total working years, right? So if you are not having like a good relationship with your current manager, then maybe you are leaving earlier. So that can, and also that explains why you have this average of years at company. So all these kind of attributes to that. We see also the, if you are talking about top 10, then the stock option level is also like it comes into the top 10 as well. So let's kind of get maybe the top 10. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 up until the job involvement. So these are the top 10 factors that can lead to or can contribute to an employee leaving an organization. So this is the end of the video. I hoped you liked it and you learned a lot. So thank you everybody for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye for now.